My name is Luz Maria Umpierre-Herrera, and I am here in Chicago participating in the Butterfly Poetry Project, and I'll be reading some poems from my work so that you realize what is it that I'm all about. My name is not Maria Cristina. I'm a Puerto Rican woman born in another barrio. Our men, they call me pushy, for I speak without a forked tongue, and I do fix all leaks in my faucet. I don't accept their wage, shut down from macho men ancestors. I sleep around whenever it's possible. No permission needed from dearest marido or kissing loving papa. I need not poison anyone's belly but my own. No cooking mama here. I cook, but in a different form. My name is not Maria Cristina. I speak, I think, I express myself in any voice, in any tone, in any language that conveys my heart within. The only way to fight oppression is through resistance. I do complain, I will complain, I do revise, I don't conceal, I will reveal, I will revise. I am not the mother of rapist warriors. I am the child that was molested. I teach my students to question all authority. No nail biting in class. No falling in love with the teacher. My eyes reflect myself, the strengths that I am trying to attain, the passions of a woman who at 35 is 70. My soul reflects my past. My soul reflects the future. My name is not Maria Cristina. I'm a Puerto Rican woman born in another barrio. Our men, they call me bitchy, for I speak without a twisted tongue, and I do fix all leaks in my faucet. Little known in this area of Chicago is that I have been involved over the years with many young writers around the country, many of Mexican origin, and many, many more of Puerto Rican origin in Puerto Rico. There's an entire literary generation in Puerto Rico that revolves around a group of writers that are called homoerotica, which I have fostered their work. So it was only natural that when Sandra Santiago invited me to come to the Butterfly Project, that I would jump on the idea, because I wanted to be a mentor to her generation and to this group of writers around the area of Chicago. I came also here because there's a literary tradition of which I've been a big part in Puerto Rico by a group of young poets that is now a hot item in Latin America, because I have helped them be publicized around Latin America. They have even been invited to Mexico City. They have been in South America and Argentina and so on. And they're known as a literary group called Homoerotica. I work with this group called Homoerotica quite extensively, help them publish, help them by writing book reviews, by exposing their work, and even traveling for the first time to Puerto Rico to read with them for the very first time that I read on the island. The woman that went with me for that reading, which used to be my partner, her name is Nemir Matos Intron, and I wrote for her this, which is one of the things that now is very common to publish in Puerto Rico, which is called an hoja poética, which is like a chapbook. And it carries a few poems, in this case 4 of them, and it's something that is very common in Puerto Rico now among the young, because you can have it published for what, $250? Sell it, distribute it, get your poems out there, and you can always put a copyright and copyright it. So I started publishing this some time ago, and I published this one, which is called Our Only Island, which was dedicated to this poet, who was the first female poet to write openly about lesbian themes in Puerto Rican literature. She's a pioneer. Her name is Nemir Matos Intron. She was my partner, and she was here in 2008 with me at the Pole when the opening of my collection there appeared. So I wrote her these 4 poems, and One of the poems that I wrote to her is called Para Niñir. I'm going to read it in Spanish. And the poem is about the fact that when she met me, she gave me a scarf that was made with leftover thread from her mother, who used to do knitting as a way of coping, because she was a victim of abuse by her father. And it had been knitted by her sister. And yet when she met me, she gave it to me. And I don't know, but in spiritual terms, especially now since I follow Buddhism a lot, one of the greatest honors that one can give to another is to give them a scarf. So based on that, I wrote this poem for her that is called Para Niñir, en agradecimiento por un regalo. Hilandera de sueños, hoy me regalas tu bufanda, hilos turquesa de tu madre azul, que perdió el tejer y la esperanza. Hilandera isleña, la suavidad del tejido me entra por la vida rala para llenarme de agujas en tu tejer mis entrañas. Hilanderas de metáforas, turquesas que abrazan, me tejes los caminillos del vacío de mi alma. En tu tejer veo silencios de tu madre recostada y una niña sale del vientre con el alma entrecortada. Teje, hilandera, tu dolor, haz tú también tu propia casa, hilvana todas tus penas y regálalas al agua. Hilandera de poemas, Puerto Rico es tu trazado. I started writing when I was about 13 years of age because I was a victim of sexual abuse as a child, and I started writing poems in order to express what was going on in my life. Unfortunately, the poems that I wrote when I was young were destroyed because one of my cousins found the book and I was embarrassed that he knew what had happened to me. I didn't start writing again until I started studying at Bryn Mawr College in Pennsylvania, where a professor of mine inspired me to take classics from Latin American literature and convert them into my own poetry. My mother used to iron the crevices in my underwear, as if sensing that my inner private life needed the holy order that only a caring maternal hand could bring to my wrinkled childhood. I never defied by speaking. I never bellied the desecration of my entrails by neighborly hands that she trusted. Once in anger, I knifed a man's pants as if to speak a new dialect, irreverent towards our language, insufficient in horror, then to taller verbs of abuse. The family was averted towards the unknown hand, creator of chaos and a symbol of our machismo. I remained silent. I did not confess upon an altar. Among the threads created with infant hands, the story of my own shredding that my mother could not reproduce. I began writing about my situation as a Puerto Rican living in the state of Pennsylvania and how I was told that the Spanish that I spoke from Puerto Rico was not valid, that it was regionalist, and that I had to speak with a Castilian accent. I rebelled against that in order to defend my own culture. Later, I started writing about feminist themes and ultimately about political matters also, and love poems. Vivo en el país de los amaestrados. I beg your pardon? Excuse me? I'm sorry. Fila india para coger la guagua. Pisotón. I beg your pardon? Ir por la calle siempre a la derecha. Excuse me? Encontronazo. Hablar siempre en voz baja. ¡Carajo! I'm sorry. No espera. Excuse me? Coger un número y esperar. ¡Colao! I beg your pardon. Estacionar a 15 pies, ni uno menos del fire hydrant. ¡Colao! I'm sorry. It's 12 inches from the curve, please. ¡Párate en la curvita! Excuse me? Caminar siempre deprisa. I'm sorry. I beg your pardon. Excuse me. I'm sorry. Pero yo soy latina y no soporto su rostro. Between 2011 and 2012, I was involved in an advocacy case of a young man living here in Chicago who was incarcerated and whose mother asked for my assistance. The young man and I carried a series of correspondence that culminated in my writing a poem. My poem is an answer to a poem that he wrote to his own mother, who's a Latina woman. I incorporated into the poem aspects of his, especially the colors of a stationery paper in which I used to write to him. In jail, he was alone, and therefore, the colors of the paper that I sent to him became very important. So he wrote a poem to his mother out of the stationery colors that I sent to him. And I answered his poem to his mother by writing this poem, which I wished to read because I was in the hopes of meeting him here in Chicago, and that seems to be impossible. His name is Marcelo, and I wish to read the poem that I wrote to him. The poem is called In Answer to Marcelo. A tear fell, and it was not autumn, when the ceiba trees shed their brown oral leaves in the mountains of small towns near your border, which is also mine now. In the months of my birth, in a season in which suicide was an option. A tear fell, as you say, reflecting, but it was not a solo tear, Marcelo. Another eye catches it in the wind like that sprinkle that falls from el cielo of your name, augurando la lluvia that never arrives. So we gather, the two madres, one nurturing water from her eye, the other capturing it to be returned to the mar, also carried in your name, and which sparkles in hues at sunset in your naranjas y amarillas, and at dawn with your purple and rosas in her homeland. A tear fell, Marcielo, and it became the ocean of my birth, from a nube in New Mexican skies, in a desert that rarely sees nevadas, in which liquid is normally a mirage, except for this day in which your brown cara mama created the possibility of a Caribbean ocean with one Marcielo shed tear.